Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking Hawkeye, the Saga of Barton and Bishop. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. I'm your host, Brent Casina, as always, and we are talking about Hawkeye, the Saga of Barton and Bishops. Now, I did an overview of this a couple months back when it came out, right around when the Hawkeye TV show was airing. Finally got around to reading it. And this is not the first time I've read this story. I think I read the first 12 issues or so, but this is a thick, monstrous, 22-issue trade paperback. Retails for $45. And at first I was thinking, I remember reading these stories. They were fun. They were, engaging. The art is good. You got David Aja, Javier Pulido, Joel Jones doing some stuff. You got, who else is in here? Francesco Francavilla. And I was like, yeah, I remember it being a little bit of fun, but boy, reading these 22 issues really engrossed me. I really did not think that this was going to be such an intriguing web of interconnected single-issue stories that built into this 22-issue epic that at the same time is very street level and very down to earth. And boy, is this a way better story than the Hawkeye show at bar none. That story is aping everything about this and just fails to be this in every single way. So this was a really, really good read. Basically, it starts off with this it's got to be written by Fraction because it doesn't list anybody else as a writer in here, but it starts off with this Young Avengers Presents Hawkeye one-shot that came out, I guess, before the series did, and it's basically Kate Bishop talking to, Ronan, which was Clint Barton at the time during the New Avengers era, after he came back from the dead during, House of M, Secret Invasion, whatever that was, and how he basically gave her his blessing to Kate Bishop, saying, you can be Hawkeye, here's a bow, go ahead and take that name and run with it, because he was done with it at the time. Cut to many, many years later, now we're in the Marvel Now era, and so this is, 10 years ago, I believe, 2012, so now we got Hawkeye falling out of a building, as he did, in the Avengers movie a year later, and in the Hawkeye TV show a year ago. We encounter this dog, we encounter Kate Bishop, and they're just kind of getting into things. And it's just these little adventures from issue to issue that you're reading, and you're thinking, these are not going anywhere. There's no major plot lines. Every issue has its own, issues resolved. The plot's resolved in the same issue, but at the same time, you're interacting with the same characters and then introducing new characters. You meet the bros, the tracksuit mafia, the guys who say bro a lot, and they're a lot funnier in this staccato writing way. It works a lot better in the comic than it did in the TV show, and I think the TV show realized this and didn't make them as bro-y as they are here. Literally bro is every third word out of their mouth, the way that the F word is every third word out of Negan's mouth in the comic books. So you encounter them, and this plot kind of revolves around Hawkeye buys this building from the mafia because he doesn't like how Tracksuit Mafia is raising the rents, and it turns out it's not exactly a legal sale, and they were trying to raise the rents to kick people out. And the overall arc is this thing with the Clown, which is a new villain, I believe, who is he's this guy in white here, and apparently he's also not only a hitman but a super mega rich dude that's trying to clear out this block so he can have this super development mall at the same time. But you kind of find that out as you go along. But we get introduced to Hawkeye, his brother Barney, Kate Bishop, who then gets sick of Hawkeye and says, F you, I'm going on my own adventure. And that's where the book really gets fun, because in the Hawkeye annual, you see her trip out to California. Javier Pulido's doing the art here, and she's going up against Madame Mask out in LA. And then every issue or two, you're hopping back and forth between coasts, between Hawkeye's storyline and Kate's storyline, until they converge at the end, where she comes back to kind of save his butt. Not really a spoiler or anything there. I mean, there's not a lot to spoil about this book. There's no big reveals. There's no big mystery. There's no big villain. It's just like you can talk about it openly and not spoil it because it is so much fun to read. And that really goes to Matt Fraction's strengths as a writer. I remember reading his Iron Man run at the same time, around the same time, I believe. Maybe it was a little bit before this, but I really love that run. But this is just like, that was more serious Matt Fraction. Like it was, Tony Stark was still a little quirky. Salvador Larroca was doing all the art there and clearly aping like people from Lost at the time. But this is like him at his most quirky, and I think this might have been one of the later things he did for Marvel. He was writing Thor, Fear Itself, I think. And then once all that kind of blew over, I think he left Marvel and went and has done Sex Criminals and other stuff at Image and hasn't really returned to mainstream superhero comics since. But I would say that this Hawkeye run is more similar to anything he's done after that or at Image and that kind of thing than his other stuff. Like, I don't know, I haven't read everything Matt Fraction's ever written. Who can? Probably some people, but I would say this is pretty representative of how Matt Fraction really wants to write, really likes to write, if that makes any sense, rather than his Tony Stark, or not, his Invincible Iron Man, rather than that run, which happened right after Secret Invasion, during the Dark Reign kind of thing. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's some fun single issues in here too. You got issue number 17 where Hawkeye falls asleep in front of a Christmas special, and the entire issue turns into this like weird animal adventure that's aping the Avengers and the Super Friends and Hawkeye, and you got Lucky the Pizza Dog in here as well. Not to mention, issue number 11 is the infamous Lucky the Pizza Dog issue where David Aja just kind of not jerks around, but uses the art in storytelling in a way that you've probably never seen before. I think it's number 11. Is it not number 11? I'll try to find it. But it takes the point of view from Lucky the Pizza Dog and sets up a whole bunch of events. I'm in number 7. That's why I can't freaking find it here. Sets up a whole bunch of events, which you find out the events of it later on. So this Lucky the Pizza Dog issue, as I try and freaking find it. Here we go, number 11. This Lucky the Pizza Dog issue, like, you're basically from the perspective of Lucky here, of the Pizza Dog, who, again, way better character in the book than he was in the stupid television show. And you kind of have this storytelling thing where he's identifying people by scent. So things he smells on them all the time. One is like a cup of coffee. The other one is like a big giant mug of coffee. What arrows, what sounds. Like, this guy's got the power button, so he must always be playing video games. You know, this guy's missing at the time. This guy has music and a bicycle. So he's walking by these doors and smelling their scent and just kind of registering everything that's going on. And they tell you that via a panel that's like an x-ray of the dog and pointing at an arrow at his nose like, hey dummy, we're smelling stuff. And then you kind of just get it from there. There's a whole thing of like, remember Dennis the Menace? There's kind of a Dennis the Menace murder mystery here with the dog, and tracing tracks and figuring out the sense. Like, this is comic storytelling at its most innovative, and I'm not surprised. I believe this issue won an Eisner for it, and this is just really, really great writing. There's very little dialogue in here. In fact, the only dialogue here are the words that, you know, he recognizes, like Clint, Kate, stay, go. You know, anything other than like a dog command, Lucky does not recognize, and everything else is just like, you know, scratches. So he only understands the words. You as the reader are only reading the words that Lucky understands. So it makes it a really compelling issue here. So I believe that is a really, really cool like takeaway. And so after this issue happens, you have like, you know, find out Kate's left, and then they kind of piece together the things that happen in that issue in later issues. All the moments kind of break out. Like, you're seeing this one event from Lucky's point of view, and then they use other issues to tell this story, and use another issue to tell this story. And so you already know what's happening, and then once you get to further issues, you're like, oh yeah, now this is going to happen, and now your anticipation is building, and things like that. So it's a really, really fun book. I would recommend this to anybody who's just interested in comics, or maybe you actually like the Hawkeye show, I would say go pick up this 1-volume trade paperback. It's a little expensive, but it is well worth your time, because it's going to be one of the best things you'll ever read. Like, this is an instant classic to me. This is something you're going to hand out to other people and be like, this is the joy of comics. You don't need to know who anybody is, really, just that they're two people together fighting crime, shooting bows and arrows, and they get into escapades and mischief and all that other stuff. Like, everything else is kind of self-explanatory or not that important. Clint's brother Barney takes some money and runs, and why? It's not important. We just know from the beginning that that's who this guy is. Who's Clint? He's down on his luck. He kind of messes everything up all the time, but he's really trying hard to be a good guy. And that's kind of what the story is about, is him finally standing up to be that guy that everybody thinks him to be. So it's fun. I really did enjoy this, and I honestly couldn't put it down. I'm not like raving about the way I might some other book that really surprised me or that was like a great murder mystery, but just the amount of fun I had reading this book, this is like a 10 out of 10 book, honestly. 10 out of 10. Go pick up Hawkeye, the Saga of Barton and Bishop. It's still on shelves. It just came out. You could probably find it online pretty easy if you can't find it at your local shop. Well worth your time for this 1-volume epic from Matt Fraction, David Aja, Annie Wu, Javier Polito, and Matt Hollingsworth. So go pick it up. Highest recommendation. And we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.